There is a silent war being waged inside you right now. A war between the person you are and the person you were meant to become every single day. The battlefield is the same. It's not the office. It's not the street. It's not your social circle. It's your mind. And the weapon, action, or the lack of it. Let me ask you something. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I just need a little more time. I'm not ready yet. Now pause, think. How many dreams have you buried under those excuses? You see, the truth most people never face is this. What separates the successful from the struggling is not talent, it's not luck, it's not education. It is their ability to act, especially when they don't feel like it. The world does not reward you for what you know. It rewards you for what you do. And here's the terrifying part. Most people go to their graves full of potential they never used, full of ideas they never acted on, full of energy they never directed. Why? Because they were waiting for a moment that never came. They were waiting to feel ready, to feel motivated, to feel confident. But the truth is, those feelings are earned through action, not the other way around. You will never think your way into greatness. You will never hope your way into success. You must act. You must move. You must force yourself to take action. Not someday, not later. Right now, because if you can master this one thing, if you can train yourself to act, no matter the fear, no matter the doubt, no matter the discomfort, you become unstoppable. Today, we're not talking about waiting. We're not talking about wishing. We're going to break down the exact reasons why action is the only path to success, and how you can train yourself to become a person who moves with power and purpose even when it's hard, even when it hurts, especially when it's uncomfortable. So lean in, because what you're about to hear might just save your future. Desire is the spark. It is the internal flame that flickers when you imagine a better life, a higher version of yourself, or a goal so meaningful that it keeps you awake at night. But let me make something clear right now. Desire alone means nothing. Desire without action is delusion. It is fantasy dressed up as ambition. It is daydreaming in disguise, and it is the poison that has paralyzed more people than failure ever has. You can want success. You can crave transformation. You can sit in your room and think about the life you were meant to live. You can talk about it. You can write it down in beautiful journals. You can make vision boards. But if you do not move, if you do not act, then what you call desire is just a comfortable lie. It is the illusion of progress without the pain of sacrifice, and it is keeping you stuck. Most people live in this state of internal contradiction. They want more, but they do not do more. They wish for results, but they resist the work. They say they are hungry, but they refuse to hunt. The moment discomfort arrives, they retreat into excuses. And then they blame the world. They blame circumstances. They blame time, money, people, upbringing, trauma, everything except their own unwillingness to take action. But let me tell you, no dream has ever become reality without motion. No desire has ever turned into destiny without labor, effort, discipline, and risk. Desire is a seed. But what happens if you hold a seed in your hand and never plant it? It never becomes a tree. It never bears fruit. It remains what it always was, unrealized potential. You can carry that seed with you for 20 years, talking about what it could become. But if you don't plant it in the dirt, if you don't water it, if you don't get your hands dirty, it dies with you. That is what most people are doing with their desire, carrying them around like trophies, showing them off, but never doing the hard work of turning them into something real. There is a dangerous idea that has been sold to the world that wanting something badly enough is somehow noble or meaningful, but history is not shaped by those who merely wanted. It is shaped by those who acted. It is carved by the people who refused to sit still, the people who moved forward even when the path was unclear, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. They felt the fear and did it anyway. They didn't wait to feel confident. They didn't wait for a sign. They didn't wait for approval. They acted, and through that action they shaped their own lives and inspired others to do the same. You must understand that desire is just the beginning. It is not the fire, it is the spark. And a spark without fuel, without oxygen, without a plan, goes out, it fizzles. It burns nothing. But action, repeated discipline, focused action is the fuel that keeps the fire burning, that transforms the spark into a blaze that can light the way not just for you, but for everyone around you. You will never reach your full potential by sitting still. You will never become what you were meant to become if you continue to let desire sit untouched in your mind. You must force it into the world. You must give it form through discipline, through courage, through relentless pursuit. That's where the real growth happens. That's where the transformation begins. When you stop treating your desire like a decoration and start treating it like a command. And let me tell you something else. Action is the only proof of belief. You can say you believe in your dreams all day long, but if you are not moving toward them, you don't believe. You are lying to yourself. Belief shows up in your behavior. Faith shows up in your footsteps. If you truly believed it was possible, you would be doing something about it every single day, no matter how small, no matter how difficult, no matter how long it takes, because the person who truly believes doesn't need to be motivated. They are moved by the fire inside them. They act because they must. People who act do not sit around asking, "What if I fail?" They understand that failure is part of the deal, that taking action means taking risks, that not every move will be perfect. But they also understand that failure is far more honorable than standing still, because at least failure means you tried, at least failure means you moved. And in movement, there is always the chance to adjust, to grow, to learn, and to rise again stronger. But in stagnation, in hesitation, there is only decay. The longer you wait to act on your desires, the more they rot inside you, the more doubt grows, the more fear strengthens its grip, and the more time you waste pretending that you're preparing when really you're just hiding. You're just hoping the pain of action will go away. But it doesn't. The only thing that eases the pain is progress. The only thing that silences fears is motion. And the only way out is through. You've got to make a decision. Do you want to keep living in the fantasy of what could be? Or do you want to experience the reality of what can be created through action? Because the two cannot coexist. You cannot live in both worlds. One gives you comfort. The other demands everything. But only one of them gives you growth. Only one gives you life. Stop calling it desire. If you're not willing to fight for it, stop calling it your dream. If you refuse to suffer for it, stop telling yourself that tomorrow will be different when you're doing nothing different today. If you want it, prove it, not in words, not in thoughts, but in action. Consistent, aggressive, unrelenting action. That is the only path forward. That is the only way out. That is how you turn desire into destiny. Procrastination is a silent killer. It is the assailant that strikes at the heart of every great dream, every ambitious goal, and every noble desire. It doesn't roar or shout. It slithers into your mind in the quietest of moments, often disguised as something benign. You need more time, it whispers. Just wait until tomorrow, it suggests. And before you know it, an entire day, week, or month has passed, and you're no closer to your goals than when you started. Procrastination is the thief of time, and in its wake, it leaves behind regret, frustration, and the haunting realization that you've wasted something far more precious than hours. You've wasted potential. What procrastination does is simple. It convinces you that now is not the right time. It tells you that you're not ready yet, that you don't have enough information, or that you need to wait for the stars to align before you take action. But the truth is, the stars will never align. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The conditions will never be just right. There is only the now, and if you don't act now, the moment slips away, taking with it the opportunity to move forward, to make progress, to grow. You see, procrastination doesn't just rob you of time, it robs you of your power. Every time you delay taking action, you're giving up control. You're giving in to your fears and doubts. You're allowing the future to be dictated by your inaction instead of shaping it with deliberate steps. Every time you procrastinate, you're sending a message to yourself that you are not strong enough, not capable enough, or not worthy enough to take the first step. And in that moment of hesitation, you allow your confidence, your discipline, and your momentum to erode. Procrastination thrives on fear. It is born from the fear of failure, the fear of making a mistake, or the fear of stepping into the unknown. These fears are natural, but they should never control you. Fear will always be present, but it should never hold you hostage. You don't need to wait for fear to disappear before you act. In fact, you will often find that the moment you decide to act in spite of fear, the fear begins to lose its grip. But procrastination keeps you in a cycle of hesitation, where fear festers and grows stronger. It convinces you that it's better to wait until you feel ready. But the truth is, you'll never feel fully ready. The feeling of readiness only comes through action, through the simple act of moving forward even when you feel uncertain, uncomfortable, or afraid. Procrastination also feeds on perfectionism. Many people delay taking action because they're waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect strategy, or the perfect condition. But in reality, perfection is an illusion. There is no perfect time to start. There is no perfect method to follow. The most successful people are not those who wait for everything to be perfect. They are the ones who take imperfect action. They start before they feel fully prepared, and they learn along the way. They understand that every mistake, every failure, and every setback is an opportunity to grow and improve. But procrastination keeps you paralyzed, waiting for a flawless plan that will never come. The danger of procrastination is that it doesn't just delay your actions, it builds a habit of inaction. The more you procrastinate, the easier it becomes to keep putting things off. What starts as a small delay becomes a pattern. A small hesitation becomes a way of life. And soon you find yourself trapped in a cycle of postponing your dreams, telling yourself that you'll do it later, that tomorrow will be better, that next week will be the time. But that day never comes. Time keeps moving forward, and you keep falling further behind. The problem with procrastination is that it doesn't just cost you time. It costs you your life. It steals your potential, your future, and your happiness. The more you procrastinate, the more you feed your self-doubt. You begin to question your ability to succeed. You begin to wonder if you'll ever be able to follow through on your goal. And in doing so, you slowly start to give up on your dream. You tell yourself it's not possible, that you're not cut out for it, that you'll never be able to achieve the success you desire. But none of that is true. The only thing standing between you and success is the action you take today. The only thing keeping you from reaching your potential is your decision to keep waiting, to keep procrastinating, to keep putting it off. Procrastination is the enemy of progress. It is the force that keeps you stuck, that keeps you from reaching your goals, that prevents you from becoming the person you were meant to be. The longer you let procrastination dictate your actions, the longer you allow it to control your life. And the more time you waste, the more regret you will feel as you realize that you could have done so much more if only you had acted when you had the chance. The solution is simple, but it's not easy. You must force yourself to take action. You must refuse to let procrastination control you. You must break the cycle of hesitation by taking the first step, no matter how small, no matter how imperfect. The first step is the hardest, but once you take it, the next step becomes easier, and the one after that even easier. You will begin to build momentum, and that momentum will carry you forward. The more you act, the less power procrastination has over you. And with each action, you will strengthen your confidence, your discipline, and your belief in your own ability to succeed. The key to defeating procrastination is to stop waiting for the right time, the right feeling, or the perfect plan. There is no such thing as the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. And the only thing standing between you and your greatness is the decision to act. So stop waiting. Stop procrastinating. Start now. Take the first step, and when you do, you will find that everything else begins to fall into place. Many people believe that clarity comes before action. They think that in order to take a step forward, they must first have a clear understanding of what they need to do, how to do it, and when to do it. They spend endless hours planning, researching, and pondering, believing that the perfect moment or the perfect plan will eventually materialize. They wait for clarity to appear, hoping that once they have it, everything will fall into place. But the truth is far different. Clarity does not come before action. It comes through action. It is only by moving forward, even when things are unclear, that you gain the clarity you seek. Action is the key that unlocks the door to clarity. When you take the first step, even if you don't have all the answers, you start to see the path unfold. You begin to understand what works and what doesn't. You learn from your mistakes, adjust your approach, and refine your strategy. But without action, that understanding will remain a mystery. You'll be stuck in a state of paralysis, endlessly waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, or the perfect moment. And in that waiting, you will lose time, opportunities, and potential. The idea that clarity comes first is a lie we tell ourselves in order to avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. We convince ourselves that we need to know everything before we act. But the truth is, you will never have all the answers. Life doesn't work that way. Success doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from doing something, anything, and figuring things out along the way. It comes from taking imperfect action, learning from it, and adapting as you go. When you start moving, you create momentum. Momentum leads to insight. The more you act, the more you begin to see the bigger picture. You start to understand what steps are necessary and which ones are distractions. You begin to recognize patterns and uncover opportunities that you never would have seen if you had stayed stuck in the planning phase. In this way, action is the true creator of clarity. It is by moving forward, even without knowing everything, that you find the answers you're looking for. But the problem is that many people wait for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, or the aha moment before they take any action. They allow fear of the unknown to paralyze them, thinking that once they have enough clarity, they'll finally be ready to move. But what they don't realize is that clarity is not something that can be obtained by simply thinking about it. It is something that is revealed only through experience, through trial and error, and through action. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a path in a dense forest. You can't see very far ahead, but you know you need to move. If you stand still, waiting for the fog to clear and for the full path to become visible, you may never take a single step. But if you start walking, even if you can't see the whole way, the path begins to open up. You begin to see the next step and the next until gradually the entire route becomes clear. That's what action does. It clears the fog. It reveals the steps. It provides the clarity you need to keep moving forward. But if you stay frozen, waiting for everything to be perfectly clear, you'll remain in the fog forever. Taking action is the process of trial and error. It's about discovering what works and what doesn't. It's about learning as you go, refining your approach, and adjusting your course when necessary. And the best part is that with every step you take, no matter how small, you gain more clarity. You learn more about yourself, about your strengths, about your weaknesses, and about the challenges you need to overcome. The clarity you seek is not something that comes before action. It is something that comes as a direct result of action. One of the reasons people struggle with taking action is the fear of making mistakes. They think that if they make a wrong move, they will fail. But in reality, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. It is through failure that we gain the most valuable insights. When you make a mistake, you learn what doesn't work. You adjust, you try again, and with each attempt, you gain more clarity about what will work. Failure doesn't stop you from moving forward. It helps you move forward more intelligently with greater understanding. Moreover, waiting for clarity can actually make things worse. It creates a cycle of procrastination, where you continuously tell yourself that you'll act once you have more information, more confidence, or a better plan. But by delaying action, you delay the very process that would lead to clarity. The more you wait, the more doubt creeps in. The more you analyze, the more paralyzed you become. And in the end, the very clarity you sought becomes even more elusive, because you've done nothing to create it. Action breaks that cycle. It propels you forward, and in doing so, it opens up new possibilities and brings the clarity you've been waiting for. Every successful person, every achiever in history has understood this principle. They didn't wait for all the answers to fall into place before they moved. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They acted, and through their actions, they gained the clarity they needed to refine their strategies and improve their results. Success doesn't come from knowing everything before you start. It comes from taking the first step, learning as you go, and adjusting along the way. You cannot sit on the sidelines and wait for clarity to magically appear. You have to step into the arena. You have to put yourself out there, make mistakes, learn, adapt, and improve. And as you do, clarity will emerge. The fog will lift and the path will become clear, but only if you move, only if you take action. If you want clarity, stop waiting for it. Start acting. Start doing. Start moving forward and watch as the clarity you've been searching for reveals itself. There is a fundamental truth about success that many people overlook. It's not about waiting for motivation to strike before you act. It's about realizing that emotion, energy, and drive follow motion. Action fuels motivation, not the other way around. If you sit and wait for the feeling of motivation to suddenly sweep over you, you'll be waiting forever. Motivation is fleeting, unreliable, and often inconsistent. But motion taking action can create the momentum needed to drive you forward, even when you don't feel like it. The truth is, waiting for motivation to show up before taking action is a surefire way to get stuck. When you rely on motivation as the spark to get you started, you're putting your progress in the hands of something that is often out of your control. Motivation doesn't always appear when you need it most. In fact, the more you wait for it, the less likely you are to experience it. The key to overcoming this is to understand that motivation is a byproduct of action. It is not the cause. The more you move, the more energized you become. The more you work, the more passionate you feel about the task at hand. Think about the last time you felt motivated to do something. Maybe it was getting up early for a workout or starting a project. But if you reflect on it, you'll realize that the motivation didn't just fall out of the sky. It came after you took action. The first step, no matter how small, was the catalyst. Once you took that first step, the feeling of motivation followed, and you began to build momentum. But had you waited for that initial burst of energy or excitement to start, you might have never taken the first step. That's where so many people go wrong. They wait for motivation to come before they act. And in doing so, they remain stuck. Emotion follows motion, because action generates momentum. Think of a car at a standstill. No matter how powerful the engine is, if the car isn't moving, it won't get anywhere. But once you put the car in motion, the engine begins to hum. The wheels start to turn, and the momentum builds. The same principle applies to your life. When you remain idle, your emotions, your drive, and your enthusiasm will remain stagnant. But once you take that first step, no matter how small, the energy builds. The act of doing something, anything, creates a feeling of accomplishment and forward movement, and that feeling propels you to keep going. This is why successful people often talk about the importance of developing routines, habits, and systems. It's not that they always feel motivated. It's that they've conditioned themselves to take action regardless of how they feel. They understand that motion creates motivation, not the other way around. And because they take action, even on the days when they don't feel like it, they create a cycle of progress. Their habits compound over time, and they find themselves achieving more than they ever thought possible. The mistake many people make is assuming that motivation will come naturally. They think that once they feel the desire or excitement to do something, they'll be able to act on it. But the opposite is true. You have to act first, and motivation will follow. It's the act of starting, the decision to move, that sparks the feeling of motivation. The longer you delay that action, the further away motivation seems. The more you wait for the perfect moment, the less likely you are to make any progress at all. One of the reasons why this concept is so powerful is that it bypasses the need for willpower. Motivation doesn't rely on discipline or force. It's a natural consequence of doing. It doesn't require you to muster up the strength to push yourself forward. It simply requires you to take that first step, and once you've taken it, the next step feels easier. The energy starts to build. The more you do, the more you feel like doing. The more you accomplish, the more you believe in your ability to accomplish even more. It's a cycle that feeds itself. The more you move, the more motivated you become. But this requires a mindset shift. You have to let go of the belief that motivation is the driving force behind action. You have to stop waiting for the feeling to come before you begin. Instead, you need to accept that motion is the key. When you make the decision to act, regardless of how you feel, you will find that your emotions and your drive will follow suit. The moment you stop waiting and start doing, you'll notice the difference. The resistance you felt in the beginning will start to fade, and the energy to keep going will rise. One of the biggest obstacles people face when it comes to starting something is the fear of not being good enough. They think that they need to be perfect from the start, that they need to have everything figured out before they begin. But this kind of thinking is what holds people back. Perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. By taking imperfect action, you learn, you adjust, and you improve. And as you improve, your motivation and enthusiasm grow. The key is to start, even when you don't feel ready. The act of starting, no matter how small, will create the clarity and drive you need to keep moving forward. Emotion follows motion, because the act of doing shifts your mindset. When you take action, you begin to believe that you are capable of success. You begin to trust in your ability to figure things out as you go. Action builds confidence. It tells your brain that you are making progress, and that progress fuels your desire to continue. The more you do, the more your confidence grows, and the more you feel like doing. It's a positive feedback loop that can propel you to new heights. In the end, waiting for motivation is a trap. It's a delayed tactic that keeps you stuck in indecision and fear. The truth is, motivation will never come if you wait for it. It's up to you to take the first step even when you don't feel like it. The action itself is the catalyst for the emotions you seek. Once you start moving, the motivation will follow. The key to success is simple. Don't wait for motivation. Move, and the motivation will find you. Building a system that makes action inevitable is the key to overcoming procrastination and ensuring consistent progress toward your goals. A system, when designed properly, removes the need for motivation and willpower because it transforms action from something you have to force yourself to do into something that simply happens as part of your daily routine. It's about creating an environment where taking action becomes the natural choice, rather than something you need to consciously decide or struggle to find the energy for. The first step in building such a system is to simplify the process. Often the reason we fail to take action is that we've made things more complicated than they need to be. When tasks seem too big or too complex, we become overwhelmed, and our immediate reaction is to put them off. But a system that ensures action is inevitable breaks tasks down into manageable pieces. Instead of thinking about the entire project or the long road ahead, focus on the next step. By narrowing your focus, you can eliminate the fear of the unknown and make the process feel much less daunting. A system should consist of small, achievable steps that you can complete consistently, which over time adds up to significant progress. This is where habit building comes into play. Habits are the backbone of any effective system. When you integrate productive actions into your daily routine, they become automatic, and you no longer have to rely on motivation to get started. Start by identifying the actions you need to take to move forward and begin incorporating them into your day. Whether it's writing, exercising, working on a project, or even learning something new, make these actions part of your daily schedule. The goal is to make them non-negotiable. When something becomes a habit, it no longer feels like a chore. It becomes part of who you are and what you do, almost like breathing. Another important element of a system that drives inevitable action is accountability. When you hold yourself accountable, you create an external force that pushes you to act. This can take the form of setting deadlines, reporting progress to someone else, or simply making a commitment to yourself. Accountability ensures that even on days when you don't feel like taking action, you do it anyway because you've made a promise or commitment that you're unwilling to break. External accountability adds a layer of responsibility that keeps you on track, and it gives you the support you need to stay focused when motivation wanes. Furthermore, removing distractions is a key part of building a system that makes action inevitable. In a world full of interruptions, distractions are everywhere, and they are one of the primary reasons people fail to take consistent action. Social media, notifications, and other time wasters can derail your productivity and prevent you from staying on task. A system that encourages action removes or minimizes these distractions as much as possible. This could mean creating a dedicated workspace where you can focus, turning off your phone during work hours, or setting boundaries with people in your life. By eliminating or reducing distractions, you create an environment that supports focused work, making it easier to take the necessary actions without constant interruption. Equally important is the need to track progress. Tracking your actions, even the smallest ones, helps reinforce the habit and gives you a sense of accomplishment. This could be as simple as checking off tasks on a to-do list or keeping a journal of your daily progress. When you track your actions, you create visible evidence of your progress, which serves as motivation to continue. The simple act of seeing how far you've come reinforces your commitment to the process and reminds you that progress is being made, even on days when the results aren't immediately obvious. Another key aspect of a system that makes action inevitable is the concept of pre-commitment. Pre-committing is a powerful psychological strategy that involves making decisions in advance to eliminate the need for willpower later. For example, you might decide the night before what you will work on the next day, what time you will start, and where you will work. By making these decisions ahead of time, you take the guesswork out of the process. You don't leave room for hesitation or procrastination because the decisions have already been made for you. Pre-committing to a course of action eliminates the friction that can arise when you have to decide in the moment whether or not to take action. A critical component of building a system is designing it to fit your personal preferences and strengths. This means you should tailor your system to your own rhythms and energy levels. Some people work best in the morning while others are more productive at night. Some people need complete silence to focus while others thrive with background noise. A well-designed system works with your natural inclinations, not against them. This means understanding when and how you work best and scheduling your task accordingly. If you try to force yourself into a system that doesn't fit with your natural tendencies, you'll struggle to follow through. Instead, build a system that complements who you are, and you'll find that taking action becomes much easier. The final element of building a system that guarantees action is consistency. Consistency is the key to success in any endeavor. It's the cumulative effect of small, consistent actions that leads to monumental results. It's not about taking massive, sporadic leaps forward. It's about taking consistent, incremental steps every day. Building a system that ensures consistency involves setting clear routines, having measurable goals, and making sure that no day goes by without progress being made. Over time, this consistency builds momentum, and momentum, as we've already established, leads to action becoming automatic. Ultimately, building a system that makes action inevitable is about creating an environment where doing the work is the easiest option by making action a part of your routine, removing distractions, holding yourself accountable, and tracking your progress. You create a system where taking action doesn't require motivation, willpower, or intense effort. It simply becomes part of the process. And once you have a system in place, you will find that action becomes an inevitability rather than a choice you have to struggle to make. In the end, success is not determined by waiting for the perfect moment or hoping that motivation will strike when you need it most. It's about taking consistent, deliberate action and building systems that make that action inevitable. Motivation will follow motion. Momentum will build from the smallest steps you take, and soon you'll realize that taking action has become second nature. By creating a system that removes the friction and effort of deciding to act, you ensure that progress becomes a daily habit rather than an occasional struggle. The key is to stop relying on fleeting feelings and start relying on systems that turn action into a constant, unstoppable force. The future belongs to those who act, and with the right system in place, you'll be ready to seize it.